what's poppin'? What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another great episode of Simone with the Sports. I'm Simone, bringing you guys the daily sports talk. So if you're new here, if you're old here and you haven't already subscribed to the channel yet, make sure you stop what you're doing. Make sure you leave a comment. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Also, make sure you turn your notification bells because you already know the videos is coming like boom, 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 boom. And you don't want to miss it, especially since the NFL draft is this week. You guys know I'm super hyped, super excited, super stoked. So make sure you have a notification bell on because my post-draft videos are going to be coming like crazy. They're going to be coming like boom, 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 boom. Might even be 2 videos a day probably after the NFL draft. Also, I'm going to be live for the NFL draft. I'm also going to be live for Sixers versus Hawks tomorrow and Friday. So make sure you're tapped in. I'll be live with Dylan Matthews. Obviously, he's the Atlanta Hawks boy. And we're going to be live during Hawks versus Sixers this Wednesday and this Friday. We're also going to be live during the NFL draft. So make sure you turn notification bells on. You don't want to miss a single video, a single live stream, especially since the NBA playoffs are going to be coming up too. You already know we finna be live and popping. We live from the gutter, dog. Yeah. So make sure you turn notification bells because we about to turn this thing up, y'all. We about to turn this thing up. We got the draft coming up. We got the playoffs coming up. You want to be here. So guys, also make sure you check out the links down below. The first link is to buy me a coffee to help fuel this channel that you love so much. The second link is to shop the official Symone with the Sports merch collection. You know, get fresh dead like me. Shop the Symone with the Sports wavy tee, Symone with the Sports classic tee. We got what you need. Go get it. Lastly, the last link is to subscribe to our podcast, Tough Calls, where me and Dylan have some of your favorite sports analysts, reporters, former and current athletes chop it up with us on the podcast. So if you don't want to miss out on any of those conversations, make sure you subscribe there. But guys, let's get into this conversation. Today, we're going to be talking about some NBA playoff pictures. Guys, I'm itch to get to the playoffs. Like, I'm so excited for playoffs. Especially when your team like the Sixers, you know, winning is extremely fun. But when you're a top seed, you know, it's kind of get to the point where, okay, like, I'm ready to get to the playoffs. I'm ready to, you know, when you're a lower seeded team, when you're kind of on the bubble, you're not as, you still in an intense mode right now because you're still trying to get to the playoffs. If you're like a Wizards fan, of course, like you still intense right now. We're not as intense because obviously we're going to be top 3 at least. I mean, I don't see us falling past 2. But now I'm just ready to get to the playoffs and make this thing do what it does. But guys, let's talk about some of the playoff pictures here. So this seeding for the Sixers, obviously the Sixers, in my opinion, I don't see us falling behind the Bucks. The Bucks currently at the number 3 seed. Of course, I see it's either number 1 or number 2. Now, the Brooklyn Nets are the biggest problem because the Brooklyn Nets have been heating up lately. Kevin Durant came back. Well, James Harden just recently had a setback on his injury, so they're not sure if he's going to come back in the regular season or not. Obviously, they lost a big man in LaMarcus Aldridge retiring, but just the duo of KD and Kyrie is enough to really fuel the Nets. They're right now at the number 1 seed. Obviously, the Sixers had our 4-game losing streak when we didn't have Tobias, we didn't have Ben, we didn't have Joel for a game, we didn't have Seth Curry. So I'm not mad that we fell because what were we supposed to do? We didn't have any guys. We had nobody. Like, we were starting Mike Scott. Like, what were we supposed to do? So I'm not even upset about us falling. I mean, injuries is just a part of the game. It sucks. It's bummy. But guys, the difference between the number 1 seed and the number 2 seed is going to be huge when it comes to the playoff picture. So that's why it's so important for the Sixers to get that number 1 seed. Now, the good thing for the Sixers is that the Sixers are supposed to have one of the easiest schedules. The Sixers are supposed to have one of the easiest schedules for the remainder of the season. So that is a big ups. Now, of course, and we're going to get into some stats in a minute. We're going to talk about the difference between our route if we have the number 1 seed, how much easier our route would be for the number 1 seed, and how much more difficult it would be if we had the number 2 seed. I first want to say, yes, we do have technically one of the easiest paths, but let's not forget we got the Atlanta Hawks coming up Wednesday and Friday. Atlanta Hawks are a team that are on fire. Then they won their last 7 out of 10 games. Nate McMillan has totally turned that team around. They just beat the Bucks without Trae Young and a fully loaded Bucks team. The Atlanta Hawks have shooters, okay? Bogey Bogdanovic has been going off. We already know what Trae Young can do. Gallinari will go off when he wants to. Kevin Huerter will go off. And then they got freaking Clint Capella. I know Clint Capella will be no match for Joel Embiid, but Clint Capella just putting up 20 and 20 nights. at ease. So we can't sleep on the Hawks. Now, I don't know if Trae Young is going to play on Wednesday and Friday. They just got Chris Dunn back. Well, Chris Dunn just made his debut for the Atlanta Hawks. Chris Dunn, obviously one of the best defenders. Okay, not one of the best. I really just got somebody right there. A really great defender. So adding him in their rotation with already having all that shooting power that they have, the Hawks are going to be a tough matchup, especially in the playoffs. Because one team that you don't want to play in any team you don't want to play in the playoffs is teams with shooters. You never want to play a team with shooters. Like, even if all their pieces don't mesh, even if they don't have a big man. That's why the biggest thing with the Nets is it's just so much scoring power that is just super dangerous in the playoffs, because anybody can go off any given night. So guys, I just want to say we have one of the easier schedules, but let's not sleep on that Hawks matchup, because the Hawks is not going to make it easy on us. So let's talk about the difference between us having the number 1 seed and us having the number 2 seed in the playoffs, because it's a huge difference. First of all, I wanted to throw this stat in here. The Brooklyn Nets currently have their defensive rating is currently 113, which is 24th in the league, and this is a big thing. I know the Brooklyn Nets, they're currently 41-20. Now I don't know if this was updated from what they played tonight. So yeah, they're 41-20. The biggest thing, of course, the Nets obviously don't have a big man, but all that scoring power is just, I mean, it's just super dangerous. But let's talk about the defense and how the defense translates into the postseason. So this report from the NBA says Brooklyn's 24th ranked defense continues to have its ups and downs from game to game and quarter to quarter, missing Nick Claxton, who's been out for the last 4 games, and still okay, here's what I'm looking for. In the last 24 years for which the NBA has had play-by-play data, 16 of the 24 NBA champions have ranked in the top 5 defensively. So in the last 24 years, 16 of the NBA champions have ranked in the top 5 defensively in the regular season. 7 of those 16 have ranked 6 through 11. So basically, their defensive rating of 24 is like them winning the championship. That odds of them winning the championship with no defense, with a defensive rating so low, just if you just look at the data. Now, of course, you know, you got to look much more past the data, but if you're just looking at it from the surface level, we already know defense wins championships. You got to make stops, especially when things slow down in the postseason. So just the stat alone was really glaring to me, because it's like, dang, 16 out of the last 24 champions have been in the top 5 defensive rating. We saw how stout that Lakers defense was last season. I just don't know how the Nets, I just don't know how they're going to translate into the postseason. We'll see. But let's talk about the biggest difference between having the number 1 seed and having the number 2 seed. Now, obviously, you guys can see the timestamp on this video. Some seedings, of course, could change tonight. But I have a little bit of range in the seeding just to show that, somebody could slip tonight. Somebody could slip from 5 to 6. Somebody could slip from 7 to 8. So I talk about all of that in my in the seedings that I have. But basically, of course, the number 1 seed in the East will play in the first round, will play the number 8 seed. Now, of course, the number 8 seed is a big question with the play-in tournament. But as of right now, it's looking like the number 8 seed. So let's say the 76ers have the number 1 seed, which is why I'm saying this. After I read this scenario, you guys will see why having the number 1 seed is going to be so important. So let's say we have the number 1 seed, we're playing the number 8 seed. As of right now, the 8th seed could be the Hornets, the Pacers, or maybe the Wizards. Realistically, the Hornets, the Pacers, or maybe the Wizards. Those are 3 easy teams. Those will be 3 easy teams. A sweep or a gentleman's sweep at least, okay? Easy, great. Having that number 1 seed would be so important, okay? Now, if we have the number 2 seed, we will play the number 7 seed in the first round. And as of right now, the Heat is currently the number 7 seed. Now, the Heat has been without Victor Oladipo. Obviously, if they add Victor Oladipo in, boom, there's a whole new unit. Now, the Heat, they faced a lot of injuries early in the season. Jimmy Butler was out for a while, so that did affect their ranking. But I do not want to play the Heat in the first round, because just with Jimmy Butler alone, I know they're going to make it tough. Now, I still would have the Sixers. Now, it just depends if Oladipo is playing. Now, this is if the Sixers have the number 2 seed. And that's what I'm saying. I do not want the number 2 seed because we could potentially be playing the Heat the first round. You see how the Heat makes it hard for teams for no reason. So I do not want to have to play everybody every game because I'm playing the freaking Heat versus we could low manage versus the Hornets, the Pacers, or the Wizards. If we play a team with the Heat, we got to actually play every game. I can see the Heat getting at least 2 games just off the strength of Jimmy Butler's just laying his life down. Now, if Oladipo is playing for the Heat, now let me know. I haven't been keeping tabs on Oladipo. Is Oladipo supposed to be back at all this season? Is he supposed to be back in the postseason? If Oladipo is back in the postseason, then that's a very, 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 very scary matchup for the Sixers in the first round. If Oladipo is back, I'm scared. Okay? Now, I will still have the Sixers winning, but that's a series where they're gonna have to play at full strength every game. Do you see already the difference between having the number 1 seed, we'll play the Hornets, the Wizards, or the Pacers, versus having the number 2 seed, we could potentially be matching up with the Miami Heat first round? That number 2 seed is dangerous. The Nets can have that. We have to get back to the number 1 seed. Now, think about when we get to the second round. Now, if we have the number 1 seed and we make it past the number 8 seed, then we go on to play the winner of the 4 or 5 seed. Whoever wins their first round, the 4 and 5 matchup, whoever wins theirs, they will go on to play us. Now, currently the Hawks have the 5 seed, the Knicks have the 4th seed, and I just threw in the Celtics because they have the 6th seed and maybe they could jump up because they say the Knicks have a very, very, very difficult schedule for the rest of the season. So let's say the Celtics, it's going to be the Hawks, the Knicks, or the Celtics that we will be playing in the second round if we have the number 1 seed. Now, those are 3 teams I don't want to play. I don't want to play in the second round. I don't want to play the Hawks. I don't want to play the Knicks. I don't want to play the Celtics in the playoffs because just Hawks and Celtics, like I said about shooters in the playoffs, those 2 teams with multiple shooters. I don't want to play shooters in the playoffs. I hate freaking shooters. Somebody get hot and knock you down. Somebody want to be Tyler Hero from last season, and now we got to extend this series. I don't want to play the Hawks or the Celtics, okay? I don't want to play the Knicks either. So, obviously, the second round, it's going to be tough. It's going to definitely be tough because you never know which Celtics team you're going to get. And this Hawks team is coming in hot. This Knicks team is coming in hot because the Knicks and the Hawks are both teams that were slept on in this offseason. Now, when it comes to, if we have the number 2 seed, though, and if we make it to the second round, we'll play the winner of the 3rd seed and the 6th seed matchup. The Bucks currently have the 3rd seed. The 6th seed, like I said, could either be the Hawks or the Celtics. So if we have the number 2 seed, we'll potentially be playing the Bucks in the second round. Heck no. So you're telling me we'll have to beat the Heat and then have to beat the Bucks? Heck no. Bruh. We have to get the number 1 seed so we can at least have an easy first round. Because when we get to the second round in either matchup, once we get to the second round, it's getting dicey, it's getting tough. But I'm just trying to show you guys the difference between us having the 1st seed and having the 2nd seed and why the Sixers must have the 1st seed. Guys, regardless, I'm super excited for the NBA playoffs because the matchups are about to be crazy. I can't wait for the playoffs. But, I got to live in the moment. I'm living in the moment. I'm living in this week. Like I said, we got the Hawks. This will be a great gauge. Hopefully, Trae Young is playing. I'm not sure where he's at injury-wise. This will be a great gauge for how we will match up in the playoffs. Like I said, we're going to be live for the Hawks versus Sixers matchup, so make sure you're tuned in there. Guys, I'm super excited for the playoffs. But like I said, I'm a Moan that's living in the moment. 2021, I'm living in the moment. So I'm going to just enjoy the basketball that we have in front of us right now. I'm going to enjoy the Hawks tomorrow night, and I'm going to enjoy the NFL draft on Thursday. But guys, like I said, the matchups are about to be crazy. So make sure you are tuned into my channel. Make sure you like this video. Make sure you leave a comment. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you turn the notification bells. Make sure you keep rocking with me. Let me know what you want to see in my next videos before we get into the playoffs. Let me know what you want to see in my next videos. As when it comes to the NFL side, of course, we're going to be getting a whole bunch of post-draft content. We're going to be breaking down each player. We're going to be talking about how each player will fit into our scheme. We're going to talk about the biggest steals we got from the draft, the biggest sleepers in our draft. We're going to talk about the guys that we know we could have missed out on. We're going to talk about how each drafted player will impact our roster, will impact our offense, will impact our defense, will impact probably Zach Ertz is going to be gone by Thursday. we got a lot to talk about, so make sure you guys, you know, stay tuned, stay locked in, turn the notification bell. Make sure you check out the links down below. Buy me a coffee to help fuel this channel. Make sure you shop the merch collection. Make sure you also follow me on Instagram, SymoneWithTheSports. Stay locked in, stay tuned in, you know what I'm saying? I'll be giving you guys updates. I'll be giving the original content on Instagram, so make sure you follow me on Instagram as well. And I'll talk to you guys next time. Bye!